Remember whenever you were a kid and you were constantly learning about all these new weird animals and it kept blowing your mind? And now that you're older, you really don't learn about any new animals like that. Well, today, I guarantee you if you watch to the end of the video, you are going to learn about at least one strange animal that you didn't know even existed. Or your time back, guaranteed. I will literally give you your time back somehow. Today, we're going to be talking about the Weird Animal Iceberg 2.0. I've compiled this list of the most bizarre, weird creatures to ever exist on the face of the earth, from things like large, elusive mammals like the okapi, to insane-looking birds like the great Pitohui, to other really strange animals like the barrel eye fish thing. But this list has a lot of really amazing animals. I'm so excited to talk about them. I can't get enough talking about all these weird animals. But thank you guys so much for watching all these videos, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Starting off at tier 1, we're starting strong with the Java mouse deer. So this is a small hoofed animal that is found exclusively on the island of Java in Indonesia. It is a species of sevrotane that only grows to about 1 foot tall. Males will actually grow these little fangs that they use to fight other males for territory and mates. For defense, these things are so small and vulnerable that you can actually step on them really easily. So whenever they sense danger, they sometimes will just dive into nearby bodies of water and then swim to the bottom and grab onto vegetation where they can stay down there and hold their breath for up to 5 minutes, which is, kind of surprising they can do that. They do this other kind of surprising, cute thing where they can run at like 30 miles per hour, which seems extremely fast for something that's 1 foot tall. People say when they do run, you can hear their little hooves clomping at 7 beats per second, and it sounds like this rapid drum roll. I tried to find a video of this, but there's really not much footage of them. They're actually incredibly rare. There was one subspecies that was lost, and they thought it was extinct for 30 years, until suddenly they rediscovered it in 2019 in Vietnam. So this thing's pretty elusive. And man, tiny deer, size of a rabbit, can run super fast. Next up, we have the poison bird, the hooded Pitohui. So this is one of the world's only toxic birds. It contains batrachrotoxins that are most potent on its skin and feathers. It is actually the same toxin that you find in poison dart frogs. Gram for gram, this is one of the most toxic natural substances known to science. In high doses, it can lead to paralysis and death. And just like dart frogs, they become poisonous because of their diet. For this bird, it is a particular beetle it eats that makes it toxic. It's thought that this toxin functions both as a deter for predators and also to protect the bird from parasites. When the guy who found this bird discovered it, he actually grabbed it with his bare hands. And you might think he died from this, but the toxin in this bird was only in low doses from just touching it, and so he didn't even know he was getting poisoned. But at one point, he got scratched by it, and he said that it hurt more than it should have. And so he put his finger that got scratched into his mouth, which went tingly and numb. And it's just kind of funny that, to think of someone dying by getting poisoned from a bird, which he didn't. He didn't die. Moving on to tree kangaroos. So these are miniature kangaroo things that kind of have a koala lifestyle. They are marsupials that live in the rainforest of New Guinea and also northeastern Australia. They're pretty hard to find as they're elusive and live in solitude in high tree canopies. Unlike terrestrial kangaroos, they have longer forelimbs and shorter hind legs, allowing them to climb effectively in all these trees that they live in. Their thick tails actually work as counterbalances whenever they move through the trees, and they can safely drop from heights over 30 feet due to their strong joints and padded feet. Next up, we have the black rain frog. So I added this one to this list because it looks funny. This frog has a permanently grumpy expression, and you could easily get this thing confused with an avocado. I mean, this thing, its skin looks exactly like an avocado, and the color of it, and its size. They only live in small coastal areas in South Africa, and they spend most of their life in burrows underground where they absorb moisture directly from the soil like a boss. I don't know why I added that. I just wanted to say like a boss. Whenever these things feel like they're threatened, they puff up with air like a balloon, expanding several times its size, where they then try to warn predators by making this warning shriek sound, where basically it just screams. It sounds like a high-pitched squeak that is kind of similar to like a balloon letting out air and you like pull the thing apart. And anyways, it's just such a funny little guy. I had to add him. If I didn't, it would just be wrong if I didn't add him on this list. All right, moving on to the sawfish. So this is a fish that is known for having an extremely elongated nose thing that is rowed with sharp teeth on either side, so it resembles a saw. The sawfish is sometimes called a carpenter shark, although it is not a shark at all, and it is often confused with saw sharks, which are an entirely different animal. Technically, this creature is a ray, which is a type of fish that's, the same as the stingray. Sawfish are critically endangered due to habitat loss. Really, it's sad because they live all over the world in places like the Atlantic Ocean, Indo-Pacific, Eastern Indian Ocean, usually in muddy, sandy, brackish waters. But these things have a specialized snout that is actually a multifunctional tool. They can use their snout to detect and stun and catch prey. This nose is covered with thousands of tiny sensory pores that detect faint electric fields produced by fish and prey. So it can hunt like this in dark water. It can swing its head from side to side and basically chop prey up, including sharks. The sawfish is also a lot larger than I thought, being 25 feet long and 1,400 pounds is the largest one we know of. One interesting thing about it is its teeth things that line its nose are actually modified scales rather than true teeth. So if it loses one of these modified scale teeth things, they don't grow back, which is sad if they lose it, because you'll see them sometimes with missing some of these things. Next up, we have tier 2, starting off with the aardvark. So the aardvark is this burrowing mammal from Central and Southern Africa. They have these big donkey ears, a tail of a rat, and they stand kind of like a pig, and they kind of walk like a pig. But they are the only member of their order descending from an ancient lineage of hooved animals. On their feet, you can see that they actually have long claws, which is kind of weird for having hooves, and a long sticky tongue that is specialized to eat ants and termites. They also have a strong sense of smell that allows them to find insects buried underground, but their eyesight is not very good. So really they can only see well in the dark, and they're colorblind, but they're using their nose mostly to find their way around. I was also surprised with how large these things are. They can be 130 to 180 pounds and 4.5 feet long, which is like, it just seems really big, doesn't it? It just seems kind of oddly large, especially for a creature that's like basically just eating bugs, They are known for their amazing ability to dig 2 feet in the dirt in 15 seconds. So in less than a minute, an aardvark can create a hole big enough to fit its entire body in and hide. So that's a pretty good defense mechanism. You'd be surprised to find out that the aardvark is actually the animal that show Arthur is supposed to be about. That show with the guy with glasses, and there's like the meme of him like with his fist clenched. That's supposed to be an aardvark, even though he doesn't have the big nose. Apparently, whenever they were making that show, the original design for Arthur was supposed to be like this guy with a great big long aardvark snout, but I guess it scared the children, so they decided to go more with the no nose having guy. Tropical royal flycatcher. So this is a silly little bird that has this cool fan crest thing that kind of like opens up and blooms out like a mushroom blooming or a flower blooming. It's so crazy. The males have these bright red crests with blue tips on them, and the females have more of a yellowish color. But these birds are not too uncommon in the rainforest of Central and South America. They're so incredible and exotic looking, but it's actually very rare to see them with their hat thing fanned out, as they rarely use them whenever they're courting other birds to attract others to mate. And they're also known for doing this rare snake display where they fan out and kind of look like a snake. And so birders will try to see these things all the time, but they almost never see them fanned out because they kind of look like normal birds when they're not fanned out. But that's a total birder moment. It's like that thing with the flower that only blooms like every 18 years, and then like someone will like take care of it for like half their life, and then they may miss it blooming because they're, I don't know, taking out the trash or something. They blinked and it bloomed and died. I don't know if that's real. I don't think that plant thing's actually real. I just made that up. I know there's a flower that does something similar to that, but it's not that dramatic. Next up, we got a really cool one. This is the Fossa. So the Fossa is basically a mongoose that adapted to look and hunt like a small cougar or big cat. This thing can be up to 6 feet long, which seems really large for something like this. It is an absolute apex predator on the island of Madagascar, which is just off the coast of Africa, if you don't know. It is extremely agile. It's able to hunt lemurs throughout the canopy as they hop through the trees, which is crazy because you would think that, like, what could hunt these little monkey lemur things? These things are so agile. But this thing has a cat-like body, a monkey tail, weasel ears, and retractable claws like a cat. And it can crawl along the underside of branches, almost like a primate, just to hunt all those lemurs. So it's getting Zaboomafoo. R.I.P. King Julian. So this next one is cicadas. I'm sure you've heard in the summer these bugs outside that are extremely loud, just a deafening sound. Well, that's likely cicadas that you're hearing. On their own, they're not really that strange. They're just little flying insect things that kind of look like giant horseflies. They don't bite or anything like that. But there is this really weird thing about them where, you know, sometimes they do hatch every summer, like a certain type does. But there are periodical cicadas that hatch once every 13 to 17 years. And when this happens, it's called a mass emergence. And basically, their life cycle is like this. They spend nearly their entire life underground, sucking on plant roots. And then after 17 years, they dig up to the surface, billions sometimes emerging at the same time. And then they just cover all the trees and everything, and they shed their shells and they mate and lay hundreds of eggs where the babies then drop and hatch and dig their way to the ground and starts the whole thing over again. So they spend 17 years underground, wake up, scream for a month, mate, and die. And that's it. That's what they do. This past summer in 2025, there was a mass emergence where a bunch came out and they were last seen in 2008 when they hatched from their eggs. And it was kind of a big deal. In some places, it was just like deafeningly loud. I actually ate one of these this last summer, by the way. I thought you should know that. Moving on, we have the Mata Mata turtle. So this is a freshwater turtle from South America. It is known for looking extremely odd. It has this flattened leaf-like head, a rough spiky shell, and its entire body is built to be extremely camouflaged and look like submerged debris underwater. Despite living in water, they are actually terrible at swimming, mostly walking along the bottom of muddy bodies of water. And they also have this crazy hunting technique where it like just strikes like a snake. It throws its head out there with its neck, and it creates this suction pressure vacuum that whenever it sucks the water in, fish can't even avoid them. It just sucks them right in, and it's so lightning fast it's almost too quick to see. It's really cool. Now moving on to tier 3 long-eared jerboa. So these things really don't look real. They're extremely otherworldly looking mouse-like rodents that just bounce around all the time and look extremely silly. They actually have the largest ear-to-body ratio of any mammal at 3 times bigger than its head, and these ears are for hearing stealthy predators because they're always dealing with really stealthy predators all the time. They also use their ears as thermoregulatory radiators, which just means it cools itself with its ears, and it has these kind of oddly facing kangaroo-like hind legs that it walks around on like this, and it does these little powerful leaps, and sometimes it can jump like 3 feet in a single bound, but it's always just hopping around. They kind of have a ghost-like nocturnal behavior, as they are rarely seen by humans. They're found in the Gobi Desert in the region of northeastern China and Mongolia. And if you've ever seen the movie Dune or read the book Dune, this is a creature known as Muad'Dib, which is like the, basically it plays the exact same animal as in real life. It's a little mouse thing that just lives in the desert on the planet Arrakis or the planet Dune. And I just love that, like, this animal looks so weird that they wrote it into the story as an alien animal. They're like, this thing's so alien, it belongs on Arrakis based. Very cool. Next is the Gurnard. So the Gurnard, or the flying Gurnard, is this fish with wings. So it probably flies, right? No. This thing really doesn't even hardly swim a whole lot. It actually walks along on the seafloor, on the ground of the water. It is this really unique looking bottom-dwelling fish that walks around on these three little legs that kind of looks like spidery whenever it moves. These legs are actually modified spines that are growing from its fins that almost look like little hands. It takes these little steps and feels around searching for food to uncover, such as shrimp and crabs and worms. And it's very vibrantly colored sometimes. Its wings are actually purely for display and intimidation, as it cannot actually fly. But man, it is very cool looking. I bet you my buddy Tyler could catch one of those in the Mississippi River. Moving on to the Tarsier. So this is also another creature that's so weird that it inspired a story or a movie. This creature is actually the inspiration for the movie Gremlins. This is a really weird looking primate. It's actually the second smallest primate on the planet. It's only found on islands in Southeast Asia, such as the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia. It is a tiny, long-limbed, incredible hunter that is completely carnivorous. They can jump like 20 feet despite being only 5 inches tall, and they bound between trees, catching insects and lizards, and also sometimes birds and snakes and small bats. Probably the most notable thing about them is their super massive eyes. These things are really, really big and kind of almost ancient looking if you look close at them, but they can't move their eyes in their sockets. So instead, they are able to rotate their heads almost 180 degrees, giving them more direction of view to compensate for not being able to look around. And I will say they look absolutely cursed whenever they stand up. So, don't feed them past midnight. Next on this list, we have the giant isopod. So this is a deep sea crustacean that kind of looks like a giant cockroach. At maximum size, they can be up to 20 inches long, nearly 4 pounds, and they live at the depths of 7,000 feet deep, which I'm perfectly fine with them just staying that far deep. This is another creature that has deep sea giganticism, which is whenever creatures at great depth typically grow larger than shallow ones due to heat retention and other things. They've actually been known to go 5 years without eating anything, and they will eat anything that falls to the ocean floor. When I say anything, there is this video that was taken at 1,900 feet deep in the Bahamas of this like good-sized dogfish shark that was just swimming around when this giant isopod attacks it and attaches itself to its face and starts to eat it. And you can see in the video later on, it kills the shark, and then it's swarmed by 6 different isopods that are all eating it. It's honestly really awful. They'll actually eat until they nearly explode. A couple years back, I went to this aquarium in California around Monterey Bay area. It was the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and I pet one of these things. And at the time, I had no idea how freaky these things actually are. Could you imagine having one of those things just attached to your face? Oh my gosh. Moving on, we have the Megamoth Shark, not to be confused with the Megamind Shark. Am I right? You guys like Megamind, the big blue-headed guy who's a super villain? That movie's goated, dude. You can't tell me the characters in that aren't like. Anyways, Great animation too. The Megamoth Shark is one of the world's rarest, most mysterious sharks. It is a slow-moving deep-sea feeder that was discovered only in 1976. Despite being the smallest of the 3 filter-feeding sharks, after whale sharks and basking sharks, this thing's actually really large. It's 13 to 18 feet long. It's known for having a huge, soft, flabby body that is unlike other sharks. It also has this massive, strange-looking rimmed mouth that it uses for filter feeding, and it's like its mouth comes to like the edges of its face. Inside its mouth, it has all these crazy hundreds of backwards facing teeth, and it's so strange that when it was first discovered, it was mistaken for a sea monster, which is like, you know, I mean, it is. It's so rarely seen that many marine biologists that are even studying these things never encounter them, making them one of the least understood large animals in the ocean. Tier 4. Marsupial Mole. So these are once again another creature from the book/movie Dune. This thing is basically a sandworm. It's not a worm, but it moves like a sandworm. This is Shai-Hulud. Rather than building permanent tunnels in the sand, these marsupial moles will literally swim through the sand. And it's so crazy because these things are super elusive. They are only seen roughly 5 to 10 times every decade. So every 10 years, and no one has ever managed to keep one alive very long in captivity. They're actually so rare that there are some experts in the field of this animal that study these things for a very long time, and they never see them because that's how rare they are. They live in the hot, dry deserts in Australia. They are small, blind, and hairy. Once again, we really don't know a whole lot about these things because we never see them, but everything about their body is built to be aerodynamic through the sand. For instance, they're marsupials, so they have a pouch, right? Well, their pouch is now backwards facing so that it doesn't fill up with sand. And then they also have these shielded noses, and their eyes are basically gone off of their face, and it kind of moves like a fish swimming through water, just going, having a good time, going to create the spice. Dugong. So the dugong is the closest modern relative to Steller's sea cow, which was this creature that was hunted to extinction in the 1700s. This thing really is like an underwater cow. It looks a lot like a manatee, but it has a dolphin-like tail fluke and a downward turned snout that is adapted for grazing on seagrass. They exclusively eat seagrass, and they're constantly grazing. They can grow up to 13 feet long, and the maximum weight of one of them recorded was 1 ton. What's interesting about them is they're actually more closely related to elephants than whales or dolphins. And yeah, overall, these things are just kind of, I don't know, there's something just slightly eerie about them. Like, I've swam with manatees and I've gotten up close with them, but this thing is different somehow. I don't know why. There's something about it. Speaking of eerie looking things, we're moving on to the Bobbit Worm. This is a worm that lives on the ocean floor that is just horrifying looking. They are ambush hunters that just stick out their little mandibles, and whenever a fish swims close to them, they just shoot out and use their powerful jaws to sometimes cut the fish completely in half. They measured its striking speed, and they say the speed is about 14 miles per hour, which is like, seems really fast. And you might think this isn't that bad, like if a person went by it, it wouldn't be bad, right? Well, if you were to grab one of these worm things, it has these spines on its side that are venomous, and it said that if you touch these, you are met with one of the most painful stings from anything like this. And it's so bad that it can cause permanent numbness to the area that it poked. So it's actually really awful. You can touch this thing and then lose feeling in your fingers. All right, moving on to the pink fairy armadillo. So this is the smallest armadillo species in the world and probably the cutest. It's about the size of a dollar bill. It's kind of like taco-ish shaped. It is a nocturnal creature from central Argentina. Its pink color comes from its blood vessels that's showing through its thin shell. It has this unique ability to bury itself in a matter of seconds using its specialized claws to dig into the sand. It's also very rare rare. Sightings in the wild are so rare that supposedly there was one armadillo researcher that worked in its habitat for 13 years without ever coming across one of them. So it's kind of like the Marsupial Mole thing. As a result, scientists know very little about its population, its size, or its trends. And once again, this is another one of those animals that if you remove it from its habitat, it basically always just dies. 95% of these things will die within 8 days of being removed from their habitat. So it's just hard to deal with an animal that, like, it never comes out and you never see it in the wild. And if you take it somewhere else, it just dies. Peacock mantis shrimp. So this is that one animal that I'm sure you've heard of before. It has the fastest and most powerful punch of any animal in the animal kingdom. It's said that its punch is so fast it is comparable to the speed of a .22 caliber bullet. It's so fast that scientists say that when it throws its punch, it creates this superheated bubble in the water that is at the same temperature of the sun. It's actually 50 times faster than the human eye can see. So they have some slow motion videos of this thing. When it heats up the water, you can see this little explosion. And honestly, it's so weird they can do this. Like, why can they do this? They can just punch so hard they create an explosion. Why can't I do that? Also, I looked up if this thing can kill a person if it hit them just right. And people are like, yes, if that person was having open brain surgery and it directly hit them in the brain that was exposed with no skull, then it could kill you. So it could kill you technically if you were in the exact right circumstance. We are now on tier 5 with the vampire ground finch. So this bird is only found on Wolf and Darwin Islands in the Galapagos Islands. Their habitat has no permanent freshwater source, and so they started feeding on seeds and insects from other birds. And so they would peck these birds and eat the insects. And so scientists think that at some point they accidentally punctured the bird and realized there was liquid inside the birds. And so now they literally drink these birds' blood. So as their supply of seeds and insects run out, especially in dry seasons, they will go up to the seabirds, the Nazcaboobis. They always be naming these birds names like this. And then these finches will peck these seabirds at the base of their feathers until they puncture a very small hole. And it's almost painless. This bird basically can't even feel this. And then blood starts to flow out of this hole, and they just lap it up with their tongues. And the boobies apparently just tolerate these vampire birds' behavior for some reason. And it's a really weird... I mean, I guess technically this is a parasite. It's kind of awful, isn't it? Like, I don't hate it, but I don't hate it like I hate some of these other insect-like things on here. But man, imagine they did this to people. I feel like it could happen. I'm not saying it would, but the Bearcat. So this is the Bearcat, also known as the Binturong. They are not bears and they are not cats, but they rather belong to the civet family. They are a tree-dwelling mammal from dense rainforest in Southeast Asia. They have this long tail that can grip branches like a hand. It kind of acts like a fifth limb. They also have this weird thing where chemicals in its pee smell similar to popcorn, which it uses to mark its territory. So if you ever smell popcorn and you're out in this thing's territory, you might be near a bearcat. If you ever smell popcorn, a bearcat's gonna attack you. Next on this list, we have the Japanese spider crab. So this is the world's largest living crab. Its main body is about a foot across, but its legs can span 12 feet across. They're thought to live about 50 to 100 years. The older they get, the larger they are. So the oldest individuals are usually like the biggest and have the most extreme proportions, which is honestly kind of strange how long they live. It's weird because humans don't usually eat any animals that live a very long time. We kind of stay away from eating things like whales and tortoises and elephants and parrots and some sharks. But this thing, I mean, no, we always eat like lobsters and crabs like this that just live an extremely long time. Despite looking really menacing and being huge, these are slow-moving scavengers that just walk around in the ocean floor looking for dead things to just eat. And it's kind of nice. It's kind of refreshing hearing about an insect-like creature that's not doing horrible things all the time, you know? Speaking of insect creatures that are doing horrible things, we have the Amazonian giant centipede. So this thing's horrible. I did research for this and I was like, dang, I don't even want to learn about this. This centipede can grow over 12 inches long, so over an entire foot. It is also called the Peruvian giant yellow-legged centipede. They have venomous claws that are directly below their mouth like fangs that it uses to paralyze its prey. It hunts surprisingly large prey for an insect, such as other insects, lizards, frogs, even mice and small birds. It's able to hunt things like this because it's extremely aggressive. It's capable of climbing up things and swimming through the water and ambushing prey at extreme speeds. It's been documented to hang from cave ceilings and snatch bats out of the air as they fly past, and then use its venomous claws to just dig in and kill it. And I hate this thing, honestly. I worked at this place in Hawaii on the North Shore about 10 years ago now, where we were constantly dealing with large centipedes, and dude, they are so freaky. I feel like, I don't know if it's true, but I feel like they had pinchers on both their head and their back end, but maybe I just imagined that. But they were just always all over the place. Someone got bit when I was there, and it was just like, do we really need to be dealing with all this? You know, it's just like, there's a lot of great animals that we can preserve the habitat for. Like, do we really need these things that are comparable to spiders mixed with snakes? And they're also poisonous, you know? It's like, surely there's something that we can enjoy a little bit more than these things. Next up, we have the golden snub-nosed monkey. So this is an old world monkey that lives in the mountains of central and southwest China. It has a blue face with kind of a bat-like snub nose. I kind of go back and forth on whether this thing looks cute or terrifying. Here in this picture you can see that it's angry, and it kind of just looks like a skull, like its face looks like a skull. Yeah, that one's terrifying right there. These things are known for their brilliant golden fur that is thick, and it's like a winter coat that is heat retaining, that allows them to survive in some of the coldest habitats of any primates. They can live in freezing temperature, and in the winter they will forage for lichen, and they're highly social. They can travel in groups of up to 600 monkeys. So just imagine 600 blue-faced skull monkeys coming at you with their golden fur. I don't really think they're aggressive. Is anything not completely aggressive other than like manatees or whatever? Tier 6, olms. So olms are something that is very similar to axolotl. The first written records of olms date back to 1689, where they thought that olms were baby cave dragons. These are cave salamanders that are central to southeastern Europe. Like I said, they look a lot like axolotls, and they're same in a lot of ways, as they both stay in the larva stage of life, so the baby stage, their entire life. They have external gills and they live in water their entire life. Despite being salamanders, they can regenerate limbs. They look extremely similar to the axolotl, other than they kind of look more eel-like. What's different about olms from axolotls is they are completely blind, where axolotls have functioning eyes, but olms are extremely long-lived, often living 60 to 100 years. And they think the reason they live so long is because they live an extremely slow-paced lifestyle. They live in predator-free cave environments that has allowed them to just thrive, and also they only reproduce once every 12 years, so they kind of have to live a really long time to be able to keep their species from disappearing off the face of the earth. They also have an exceptionally slow metabolism, where olms have been known to survive up to 10 years without eating any food. Next topic, we have the Aardwolf. So this thing is not an aardvark or a wolf, rather it is related closer to hyenas. But it has one huge difference. These things feed mainly on termites, where they eat 200 to 300,000 per night. This diet helps these hyena-like things maintain its protein and moisture while it lives in some of the driest places in Africa. And while aardvarks tend to destroy termite mounds and force them to relocate or rebuild, aardwolves seem to purposefully leave these structures intact to leave a constant food supply for themselves to come back to. They also have stomachs that are so specialized for digesting termites, if it tries to eat regular meat, it actually becomes sick. So it's one of the few carnivores that we know of that is biologically incapable of switching to a meat diet. Which honestly, that kind of sucks if you can only eat bugs and you're a carnivore, but you're going to eat the bugs and you're going to own nothing and you will be happy. I'm not going to lie though, I've eaten bugs before and they're really not too bad if I'm being honest. I could honestly go for a good juicy deep fried cicada every now and then. Moving on, we have the Goliath Tigerfish. So this is an insane looking fish. It's best known for being caught by Jeremy Wade on that show River Monsters. This thing is considered to be the most dangerous fish in all of Africa. It is a predatory freshwater fish that can get up to 6 feet long and weigh over 100 pounds. These things have teeth that are up to 1 inch long, and they kind of interlock like alligator or crocodile teeth, which is kind of funny because this fish is so like aggressive that it will eat large fish, but sometimes also small crocodiles. These fish can also sense vibrations even outside of the water, and they're known for being able to come up out of the water and eat birds just flying over top. But they can tear their prey into smaller pieces. Their jaws are so powerful they can actually snap prey in half with a single bite. And it's got almost a mythical reputation as it's been known to attack and bite humans in the Congo River basin where it lives. And I think people have even died from this thing, so I'm kind of glad that we don't have such horrific things here. We just have alligator gar that only get 6 feet long, but they've never killed a person. Just so you know, if you live in an area with alligator gar, it's really rare if they bite people. And like even then, it's not like they're made for tearing flesh like these horrible fish things are. Okay, next up we have the Pipa frog. A quick warning, if you have trypophobia, you might want to just skip ahead on this one if you don't like all the little patterns on things. Also known as the Surinam frog. This is also another animal found in rainforests, this one specifically in South America. It is an aquatic frog that has great camouflage and has a really unusual way of reproducing. Females will release 60 to 100 eggs at a time, where the males fertilize these eggs and then push them onto the female's back, where they then stick into her skin to grow. During the next few days, her skin grows around the eggs, forming like a honeycomb structure of pockets. And so these are some of the few frogs that never turn into tadpoles. They rather just hatch directly into frogs. And even once they're hatched, they will ride on her back for 3 to 4 months, continuing to develop underneath her skin. But eventually, they'll then bust through the frog's skin as little toad froglets. I personally don't have trypophobia or whatever it's called, but these things kind of are freaky to look at, to be honest. Proboscis Monkey. So this is basically Squidward monkey. There's no reason why this guy gotta look like this, but he does. No, there actually is a specific purpose why this thing has a great big honker like this. So only males have this ridiculous nose, and they use it to amplify the sound of their mating call. It is like an echo chamber where the noise goes through it and kind of echoes to attract females, and so they kind of look like villagers from Minecraft. But if you listen to the sound they make, they also sound like villagers from Minecraft. They go, huh? That's what they sound like. It's kind of crazy. It's like, did the Minecraft creators directly create the villagers from this monkey? Kind of cool, honestly. They may have. We are now on the second to last tier, tier 7, with the Hoatzin. So the Hoatzin is this really cool bird. It kind of looks like just like a phoenix in general. This may be the most dinosaur-looking bird that we have alive today. Because what's really crazy about these things is whenever they're young, they have these extremely dinosaur-looking claws on their wings, as if they're some sort of, Archaeopteryx or something like that. So young chicks will hatch out of their eggs and then will crawl doing this alternating hand movement like other mammals do. It's actually crazy because no other living bird species has the ability to do this crawling motion, only this bird. And eventually, as they grow older, they lose these claws. But it's just so crazy. What a weird bird. It looks like a phoenix. It has a mohawk crest, these blue facial features, red eyes, large fan-shaped tails. They are sometimes called stink birds because they smell like cow poop, as unlike most birds, they have this fermentive digestive system like a cow. So they give off this strong, unpleasant smell because they're fermenting their food in their body. And it's cool because this process that makes them stink so much makes predators avoid eating them because they think they're rotten and poisonous. So imagine you smell so bad that you're no longer prey because you're that gross. Biologists say this bird has no close relatives. The last surviving member of its genus may have branched off a very long time ago, around the time the dinosaurs became extinct. So literally, dinosaur bird, IRL, still alive today. Pretty sick. Moving on, we have the giant Chinese salamander. So this is currently the largest amphibian on the planet. It's capable of growing nearly 6 feet long and being 130 pounds. It can actually live for decades. The maximum known age of this thing was 60 years old. This thing lives underwater, yet it does not have gills. It actually absorbs oxygen through its skin. It also produces this sound that sounds like a baby crying, which would be really creepy if you heard this at night and you didn't know what it was. They lay these eggs that are in these like beaded cords that look like pearls, and honestly, they're really strange looking, and for some reason I just kind of want to bite into them, kind of like they look like forbidden boba tea, which I wouldn't because they're critically endangered. That's what I was about to say, is they're critically endangered, so I would not eat them. They're critically endangered due to over-harvesting for human consumption, as well as like habitat loss and water pollution, and which really sucks because they've been around since before the time of the dinosaurs, they think. And anyways, rice farmers are always dealing with these things, getting in their rice patches and the rice fields and eating their stuff. And can it really taste that good? This thing is a salamander. Is it gonna be that yummy? Is it yummy enough to eat it till extinction? Probably not. I highly doubt it's that great. Why are people so weird about eating things like this? I don't really. But yeah, it's kind of like a delicacy in Asia to eat these massive giant salamanders. And anyways, yeah, moving on. Don't eat the forbidden boba. Promachoteuthis sulcus. Very little is known about this animal because only one specimen has ever been caught, ever. So only one of these was caught, and that was in 1971 at the depth of 5,500 to 6,500 feet. This was near the island of Tristan da Cunha, which is one of the most remote islands in the entire world. And this thing basically looks like a squid with human teeth. But the teeth are actually like circular folded lips. They're not real teeth. There's actually a real beak hidden underneath behind them. What's also very strange about them is the photographed specimen, the only one that we know of, was actually collected back in 1971, decades before it was formally described in 2007. So this species, nobody even knew about it for over 30 years because they didn't realize how weird it was. They didn't realize it was a complete different species. And then they looked at it and they're like, oh, this is the only one ever. Okay, is that teeth? Oh my gosh. Imagine you were in the ocean in the most remote area in like the entire world and you find a squid with human teeth. That's pretty freaky. All right, star-nosed mole. I bet you've heard of this one. It's kind of known for just looking really weird. This mole is known for having these 22 tentacle things arranged around its circular nose. These tentacle things are actually over 25,000 sensory organs, making it one of the most touch-sensitive animals on the entire planet. So because of it having all these little touch organs, it is actually one of the fastest foragers in the world, as it can identify and consume prey in under 1 millisecond. So under 0.1 seconds, it can identify something and have it in its mouth, then eaten. It has this amazing ability to detect vibrations and possibly even seismic waves, like waves before an earthquake happens. And it's just overall really weird. A lot of people see it and think it looks weird, but its ability to eat something that fast is just like my cat whenever I leave my plate for 1 second. Next we have the headless chicken monster. This thing is also called the Enipnes astes, but I'm going to call it the headless chicken monster. This is actually a type of deep sea cucumber that lives at up to 20,000 feet deep. It gets its name because it looks like a chicken that had its head taken off. Chicken with no head. Its anatomy is crazy, as it has no eyes, no brain, no heart, no lungs, but it does have like this system of nerve strings, is what it's actually called, that allows them to perceive light, touch, do these chemical changes, and also coordinate their movement and feeding. Unlike most sea cucumbers, this thing can actually lift off the seafloor and kind of glide upwards through the water column, and it's extremely fragile, being mostly made up of water, which makes it look so weird that you can see directly through it. You can see its entire digestive tract visible through its transparent body. They're pretty rarely seen, only a handful of sightings have been seen ever, and fun fact, it can use defecation as propulsion, so it poops and pushes itself through water. Final tier, tier 8. Starting off with one of my favorites, the okapi. So the okapi is this thing that looks like a zebra and a giraffe kind of mixed. Once again, this is a very rare animal from a rainforest area. It's also from the Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It has reddish brown hair, zebra-like stripes, and ossicones on its head that are, the horn things that giraffes have. It's been nicknamed the forest giraffe, as it is the only living relative to giraffes. Also, like giraffes, it has a long bluish-black prehensile tongue that it uses to strip leaves off of trees, and it can also wash its face and eyes with its tongue. But unlike giraffes that like the open plains, these creatures prefer dense rainforests where they are rarely seen. They were thought for a long time to be mythical creatures by Europeans. They weren't discovered until 1901 by scientists whenever the locals helped them find it, making them one of the last large terrestrial mammals to ever be discovered globally. They are shy, mostly solitary, and they only come together to breed for the most part. Some people call them the unicorn of the Congo due to how unique they are, and they're considered one of the most elusive animals on the planet once again. I know I've said that quite a few times with other ones, but they're actually so rare that while I said they were discovered in the early 1900s, the first photos ever taken of them in the wild were with camera traps in 2008. So there was no good pictures of these things in the wild until almost like 20 years ago. So crazy. Now we have the Gulper Eel. So this is a really weird looking sea creature. You may recognize it from this one video of this deep sea creature that looks like it kind of shapes into a massive ball. This Gulper Eel is known for its huge mouth that is even larger than its body. They can actually consume prey that are bigger than they are because they're 95% mouth. And so they're basically a swimming mouth swimming around devouring its prey, and it's like they're getting eaten by the void itself. They live at depths of 1,600 to 9,800 feet deep, and they have this bioluminescent tail tip that has this soft glow to lure prey in. So like I said earlier, they do this weird thing where they'll open up their mouth and gulp up a bunch of water and kind of just get as large as they can and blow up like a balloon. And it's probably to kind of look larger than it is so that predators don't try to eat it as easily. But it's just so strange that an animal can completely change shape like this thing. Next up we have the oarfish. So this is just one of those things where throughout history, people have been like, sea serpent, and everybody's like, bro, you're messing, what are you talking about? You're crazy. And then all of a sudden, it really is kind of like a sea serpent. So in the past, when these things were seen, everybody thought they were a sea monster, specifically a sea serpent. Sailors actually likely recorded these things quite a few times, but everybody just kind of pushed it off as a myth or an illusion, which honestly, it is a sea serpent for the most part. This is a deep water fish that spends its time floating vertically in the water column to camouflage itself. It can grow up to 36 feet long in some cases, which is really crazy when you realize this thing is only like 7 to 22 inches wide, and it's 36 feet long and not even 2 feet wide. Encounters with live oarfish are very rare. In the early days, these things were nicknamed doomsday fish because they were seeing these things around Japan in the 1700s, and it was only around events that brought destruction and disasters such as earthquakes or tsunamis. And it kind of became part of Japanese folklore that these things were messengers of some sort of sea god's palace to let them know before something bad happened. So the reason why scientists think that these fish appear before these events is because they rise to the surface whenever they are distressed or dying. And so maybe these things were just associated with after the earthquakes, and the rumbling basically killed them and they were coming to the surface to die. But there was actually numerous reports before Japan's 2011 earthquake where there was a total of 20 oarfish that washed ashore. So I'm guessing they're very sensitive whenever events like earthquakes happen, or also tsunamis. I think there was a tsunami with that 2011 earthquake. It really messes them up and they end up coming up to the top to die. So in some areas of the world, they are still seen as the bringers of bad news. And it actually wasn't until 2001 that a live oarfish was captured on film, and that was by the US Navy. But they're also extremely elusive. I kind of see how they got their reputation. There's kind of this funny thing where, like I talked about before, Jeremy Wade, he is the river monsters guy. He's just a big fisherman who films catching crazy fish. He was scuba diving and he found and filmed not one, but 2 oarfish underneath the water, which is so outrageous considering there's only been about 24 live encounters with these fish in the water. Anyways, in this video that Jeremy Wade took, he got really close to these oarfish. Like, it seems like they came right up to him. Like, he was able to reach out and touch them. But if you see the way they move, it's just so strange. It's like they don't like slither through the water. They have these undulating fins that kind of propel itself through the water. And it's actually a really efficient swimmer. It's pretty quick for being extremely long. Next up is my favorite bird on this list, the great Pitohui. So this is a freaky looking owl bird thing that's not an owl, but it also kind of looks similar to a nighthawk, but it's not a nighthawk. This thing is native to Central and South America. Its mouth seems way too big for its face, and its eyes also are way too large, and they're like giant black marbles. There's another subspecies of them that have yellow eyes that look super uncanny. That is the common Pitohui. And I just can't get over the way the yellow-eyed ones look. They look like unreal. I almost thought they weren't real when I was looking at them, but they are. But these things are nocturnal, and they have this really cool behavior where they will freeze in plain sight. There's this video where there's this mother and baby sitting together, and when you watch it, like, you can't even tell they're there, and the video is focused on them, and like you'll see the mother and you're like, wow, that's a really cool bird. And then it took me like 3 watches to realize there's also a baby there with her. So crazy. But they look kind of like a broken stick. They'll sit on these tree branches or tree stumps and they'll look like a broken off stick, and they'll be nearly invisible. But what's also really cool about these things is they have this unique kind of ghostly whale type call that would be very creepy to hear at night. It kind of sounds like a human whistling, and not even whistling good, kind of whistling kind of off tune, off key. But it's cool that this thing is like kind of uncanny looking, but at the same time, it sounds like a person whistling bad, and it can hide in plain sight. Alright, last animal on this list, we have the barrel eye fish. So this is a fish that is known for its extremely unique eyes, where they have this face, and it looks like they have a mouth, and then 2 eyes, right? But that's not what's going on. It has this huge transparent dome like on its forehead and back, and its eyes are actually sitting inside the dome, and they are like these kind of almost glowing looking yellow orbs inside their head that can see directly through the transparent dome directly upward. These eyes are specifically pointed upward so that it can spot prey, because it's always using them to hunt jellyfish, and the jellyfish are always above it. So if they do need to see, they can kind of rotate the eyes forward, which in videos of their eyes rolling forward, it just looks so strange. This thing is looking through its forehead. That's a weird animal. These fish live in the ocean's twilight zone, usually between 2,000 to 2,600 feet, where the sunlight fades to darkness. And in 3 decades of deep sea research, the Monterey Bay Aquarium has been remotely operating all these vehicles underwater, and they've done 5,600 dives. And during these dives, they have only encountered these fish 9 times. So that kind of tells you how rare they are to see. Anyways, with that, we have completed the Weird Animal Iceberg 2.0. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you stuck to the end, then you are a deranged viewer and you get a gold star. Here you go. And if you didn't learn about an animal that you didn't know about and you thought was weird, then I guess you can have your time back. Go ahead and take that from me. But I just want to say a quick shout out to all of you guys that have subscribed to me. Thank you for 600,000 subscribers. I think in my last video I hadn't quite reached it, but now I have, and it's just amazing that I'm able to sit at my desk in my house in the middle of the woods and just research extremely weird animals, and it's so wonderful. So thank you guys so much for all your support, for subscribing to me and watching my stuff. If you have any videos that you want me to talk about specifically, just let me know down in the comments and I'll try to read your comments. If I need to do a Weird Animals 3.0, I will, but I may have covered a lot of what I want to cover in these animals. I know there's probably like a lot more sea creatures I could do and that sort of thing, but I feel like this list was really pretty solid as far as like differentiating between birds and mammals and fish and whatever the other ones are, reptiles and what, you know what I mean, you know what I'm saying. But anyways, if you're out in the woods in the middle of the night and you hear a really off-key human sounding whistle, it's just my boy the Pitohui. So we got you covered. Anyways, I hate giant centipedes, and my next video is gonna be me making I'm gonna be creating an extinct animal. And don't eat the giant Chinese salamander. It's not cool, even though their eggs look like boba and they look like they'd be kind of yum. What I'm saying is don't eat them. That's the whole point of what I'm saying. But seriously, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.